Hello everyone, this is VGTI, and guess what? I'm back with more Pikmin theories. After all of this time, I am finally able to talk about another Pikmin theory. And this one, I will say, was kind of obvious. I mean, I should have talked about it. Not the theory itself, the theory isn't obvious, but just the subject matter is, something I should have talked about more a long time ago. Pikmin holds a special place in my heart, not only because it's one of my favorite game series and one of my favorite titles from Nintendo, but it's also the video game that I started this channel out on. I started just covering Pikmin theories. So, it's time to finally cover this game once again. This time, I want to focus on the planet. If you remember my very first video on this channel, Pikmin Theories Part 1, The Planet and the Umibozu, I briefly touched on the planet. I talked about what I thought could be going on, what happened to the humans, stuff like that. But in this video, I want to cover that more and go more in depth on what's going on, because there are still some questions that are just hanging there, and weird things that are going on in the games that still need explanations. In my very first video, I mentioned how I thought the humans got in a nuclear war, killed each other completely with nuclear weapons, and basically nature started thriving afterwards. But I also talked about the planet and how it resembles Pangea Ultima in Pikmin 3, and how that can be explained by the rapid shifting that seems to go on with the Pikmin planet. And I also clumsily mentioned how the love tester thing in Pikmin 2 is a Geiger counter. And of course the Hokatations wouldn't know what a Geiger counter is. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I actually wanted to mention this here now. Obviously Olimar does have a Geiger counter as a ship part in Pikmin 1. I didn't realize that way back when I did that video, back in 2013, and I guess it just slipped my mind. But it's important to mention that Olimar's Geiger counter does constantly go off. He mentions this, but he doesn't know why or what it could mean. So this still seems to imply the same thing, that everything is soaked in radiation. So for this video, I want to focus on two specific topics, and they actually go hand in hand towards this entire theory. First, I want to talk about what happened to the humans, and then I want to talk about the Pikmin planet itself and why it changes. And that may seem kind of normal. I know that topic has been covered by pretty much everyone in the past, but there seems to be more going on here than meets the eye. Especially with the way the Pikmin planet changes in each game, you have to kind of really pay close attention to the environments in each game, what is on the environment, stuff like that. And I will get to that here in a minute. But it does have to do with the humans, and I'm going to talk about them first. More specifically, what happened to them. In my very first video, I discussed this briefly, and I mentioned how it's possible that they got in a nuclear war. That's the most popular theory, mainly because of all the evidence there is for it, and I still believe it. However, my view on how it happened has changed. One thing that is important to note is that it's said that Shigeru Miyamoto himself, the creator of Pikmin and Mario and all of that, he supposedly said that Pikmin takes place after the humans are extinct. Now, it seems like no one's been able to source this quote, but they said that he said it in an interview, and if he indeed said that, then, we just have to go under that assumption, especially with what we see in the Pikmin games. But now, on to the evidence for how there might have been a nuclear war. Obviously, the first and most obvious piece of evidence comes from the very first game, which I just mentioned this a little bit ago, Olimar's Geiger counter. It's a part that you can find for a ship. He says that it's constantly going off here and that he doesn't really know why or what it could mean, but we obviously know what that means, and that seems to hint that the Pikmin planet is actually covered in radiation. And of course, as I mentioned in my other video, the one other big piece of evidence are the creatures in the Pikmin games themselves. They are very similar to creatures that we know in real life, but they're slightly different. They could be mutated by radiation. And to add to this fact is the fact that they are really, really small. We know how small Pikmin and Olimar and Louie and all of them are. And in comparison, the creatures are also quite small too, and they would be quite small to us. And it tends to be more likely that small creatures like them, especially bugs in particular, may survive a nuclear war or nuclear fallout. Now, I know most of this video so far has been me just recapping everything that I kinda mentioned in my first video, but now here's where I'm gonna divert. As I mentioned just a little bit ago, my views on the details behind this whole nuclear war thing have changed. And it all came about when I noticed something very weird that I didn't really notice when I first played the games. And I'm kind of baffled why I didn't question it the very first time I saw it. The evidence, or rather just the oddity itself, comes from Pikmin 2. Do you guys notice anything strange about the planet in Pikmin 2? Think about what you're collecting for a second. You go to PNF 404 with Louie to get treasure, and there's treasure scattered all over the Pikmin planet. This treasure seems to be remnants of human civilization, just random human artifacts. I mean, there's bits of GameCube controllers, there's matches, there's makeup, there's jewelry, food products, bottle caps, what have you. But it's scattered everywhere. So, you may be thinking nothing strange about that, but here's the thing. Olimar is revisiting areas that he went to in the first game. If you compare the areas from Pikmin 2 to Pikmin 1, you will find out that they are indeed the same places, just slightly changed over time. And Olimar even notes this in some of the Piklopedia entries and treasure entries, that he feels a strange sense of familiarity, and he realizes that these are the same areas that he touched down to in the very first game. So the question here is, where did all of this stuff even come from? In the very first game, there's nothing like that on the Pikmin planet. Barely. There are kind of large things like tin cans where you find the bomb rocks, and a few other miscellaneous things that you can't collect. They're just part of the scenery. But there's no treasure scattered around everywhere. There's a bunch in the second game. Where did it all come from? It seems almost like the humans were there more recently in the second game rather than the first game. But how is that possible? It almost seems as if Pikmin 2, or at least the planet in Pikmin 2, takes place further in the past, whereas the planet in Pikmin 1 takes place further in the present. Now, I'm not saying these are two different planets. Let's not go there. These are the same planet. It's still PNF 404, but it seems to be in a different time altogether. And then, of course, in the third game, there's barely any remnants of civilization left at all. There are a couple of things, sure, but the very least amount in the entire series. And now fruit's starting to grow all over the place, too. So, what does all of this mean? How is it possible? Well, here's my theory. Here's where this all has been kind of leading. And I know this is going to sound a little crazy, but hear me out. I think that human civilization, humanity, they reached a point in their technology where they devised a way to attempt time travel. And they thought that they could do it. They made a device that supposedly could do it. But upon first activating it, it actually malfunctioned. Things went terribly wrong, and suddenly the past started mingling with the present. or maybe the future started mingling with the present. It all got mixed up, basically. And someone, either from the past or the future, but probably the past, got a hold of nuclear weaponry. And it all went to hell from there, basically. Now, the problem is the time machine, the supposed time machine that I'm talking about here. Going off of this theory, the time machine is mingling different times together, or rather putting the past or the future in the present and vice versa. And what this causes is what we see in the Pikmin games, or especially Pikmin 2, because if you compare the planet's surface in each level really closely between the first game and the second game, you'll notice plenty of strange things. All of these new things that suddenly appeared in Pikmin 2, and a lot of it can't be explained away because it's human stuff, as if humans were there recently. One biggie, especially, I thought, was the one in the Wistful Wild that you go to in Pikmin 2. That was the previous in-game level of the first game, mixed with the impact site. And in the landing zone of the Wistful Wild, there is a license plate just sitting there. But if you go to the battle arena where you fight the Emperor Bullblacks in Pikmin 1, there's nothing like that there, implying that that game is farther in the future. So, it seems like the planet itself is caught in this time loop. No one else is affected by it. The only things that are affected by these time shifts are the things that are on the planet when these time shifts happen. Olimar and Louie are never affected by these because they aren't on the planet when these time shifts happen. However, we have the creatures on the planet. All of the creatures that you fight and the Pikmin themselves, they are constantly on the planet. They stay on the planet, and because of this, they are affected by the time shifts, and they go back and forth through time, thus becoming either more primitive or more advanced. This leads, of course, to Pikmin 3, where we have these suddenly new advanced onions that mingle together, which we never had before. And since Pikmin 3 takes place the farthest in the future, this makes sense. It also goes with the creatures as well, and the types that we encounter in each game. Think about it. However, it does have some disturbing implications for some of the creatures, including the purple and white Pikmin, who must have gone extinct at some point, because we never encounter them in Pikmin 1. There are also, of course, the size differences between certain creatures in Pikmin 1 and 2, like the Emperor Bullblacks, and the existence of what seems to be a kind of sort of machine in Pikmin 2 with the man at legs. That always kind of weirded me out when I played Pikmin 2. Like, where did this thing come from? So, if it's closer to when the humans went extinct, or basically farther in the past, it just makes more sense to me. So that's my theory, guys. Let me know what you thought of this, and let me know if it helped you think of any possible further explanations to it, or new theories of your own. Just let me know what you thought. Ask me any questions you guys might have, because it was just something that really struck me as odd about Pikmin, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know, this really deserves to be discussed and theorized about. So, that's it for this one, guys. Next time I will be talking about, well, I won't tell you, I'll leave it a surprise, but my video, again, might be next week or it might be the following week. It just depends how my schedule goes and what I have time for and what I don't, but I will try to get it out within the next 2 weeks, hopefully next week, but maybe the week after. So if you enjoyed this video, then please like the video, and if you want to see even more gaming theory videos down the line, then please subscribe to my channel. Every subscription helps, and I really appreciate your guys' views and thoughts in the comments. It's really nice to discuss all this stuff with you guys. Make me feel less insane. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next video, so make sure to keep an eye out for it and look forward to it. Thanks a bunch.